Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell is slammed by the left and the right for his out-of-touch State of the City address. But before we get to any of that, time for today's daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
It was just a few weeks ago we were ridiculing New York Governor Kathy Hochul's plan to put in congestion pricing for going into Manhattan. Everybody hated it. Everybody thought this was a terrible, no good, very bad idea. And the New York Post put it perfectly in their write-up of what happened. Congestion pricing, we hardly knew ye. New York City's spectacularly unpopular congestion pricing scheme is on death row, as the Trump administration announced Wednesday. It is pulling its approval of the toll, slamming it as backwards and unfair, in a major blow to Governor Kathy Hochul. The U.S. Department of Transportation's Federal Highway Administration terminated the approval of the controversial program, according to a letter from Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy sent to Hochul on Wednesday afternoon. So what it was is you have highways that are heading into New York City. The highways are federally controlled. So you need federal approval before tolling these things. And Hochul had gotten it from the Biden administration in their waning days. And the Trump administration says, no, this is crazy. Let's not forget Kathy Hochul said, well, we're going to charge you 15, 16, sure, let's throw out a random number. We're going to charge you that to go into the city. Oh, no. But because I am magnanimous, because I am merciful, I'll make it only $8. So you're saving money. That's what happened. And people freaked out. The only ones who were happy about this were activists. The lunatic activists. Yeah, we're going to get the cars off the road, they said as they drove their SUVs into the city, and they weren't even SUVs. That cracked me up, by the way. They made this whole big flourish. I'm so excited to pay the toll as I cross the bridge. You're out of touch wackazoids. That's what all of you are. Now, why am I talking about something going on in New York City regarding us here in Seattle? Because the Seattle idiots from the Washington State Legislature, in fact, the idiots from the entire state in the Washington State Legislature, not just Seattle, are now proposing this pay-per-mile tax, which we discussed a little bit yesterday. But watch, this is going to be something, if it gets enacted here, they're going to try and do it across the country. And how is this thing supposed to work? As we made fun of our friends over at Cairo 7 yesterday for their headline, which said that you'll be required to voluntarily opt into the program. If it's required, it ain't voluntary. So they want to do this ridiculous pay-per-mile nonsense. It ain't gonna fly. Number one, it's extremely unpopular. Kathy Hochul is so unpopular as New York governor right now, she is about to get a whole bunch of Democratic challengers. We know that Democratic Congressman Richie Torres, who was pretty far on the left, but has moderated a lot since October 7th. Sure, he still hates Trump. Sure, he's still a Democrat. But at the same time, he's a lot more practical than he was before. That man is gearing up to run for New York governor. And right now, he could beat her. Because in contrast to her, he seems like a moderate Democrat. He seems a little bit more normal. But here in Washington State, where they view themselves as the resistance to anything Trump does, they say, okay, we're going to do more of this insanity. We're going to double down on this craziness. Oh, they're getting rid of congestion pricing there. Here's how we're going to do it. But also you have a constitutional problems. The tracking where you are going, the tracking your mileage is a huge, huge invasion of privacy. And you know what this is going to lead to? What's going to lead to is a lot of people going, I'm not registering my cars anymore. I didn't want to register them after the Washington State Supreme Court took away my $30 car tabs, which I voted for. Now I really don't want to register them if you're going to be checking my odometer. They're going to say this is a violation of privacy, and they're going to be right. if this thing gets enacted, it is heading for the Supreme Court, and not just the state Supreme Court. This one is going all the way up top. Sean Duffy, Secretary of Transportation, said New York State's congestion pricing plan is a slap in the face to working class Americans and small business owners. 100% it is. Of course it is. Because it's about how can we tax the little guy who needs to drive for work. Let me explain something to you. Nobody in their right mind drives into Manhattan unless they are uber wealthy or needs to drive for work. And something else, that congestion toll pricing for anything that gets delivered to New York City, now that truck driver has to charge more money for his services, which means the prices on the goods go up because now they're not just going to eat the tax, they're going to roll it over on to you. Sean Duffy said now the toll program leaves drivers without any free highway alternative and instead takes more money from working people to pay for a transit system and not highways. It's backwards and unfair. And he's right. So here in Seattle, we got something a little bit different. Aside from the pay per mile plan, we have the cyclists, the crazy cyclists. Now, I say this as somebody who, when I had more time in my day, I used to bike ride 16 miles a day. I actually did. Mike's looking at me right now going, don't look like you bike ride right now, my friend. I mean, I'm looking at that midsection of yours. It looks like you need to do a little bit more bike riding. I could see it was running through Mike's head. I could tell already. Yes, I used to be, exactly. I used to be in a lot better shape than I am now. But the thing was, when they installed bike lanes in Seattle, they didn't put them in practical places. They put them in the middle of traffic. And they're surprised. Why have fatalities gone up in cycling? Gee, I can't figure out why. You may never have heard of the Cascade Bicycle Club. The Cascade Bicycle Club, you may not have heard of, but they're using your tax money. Doge Washington volunteers found that the Washington legislature gave over $7 million of your tax dollars to the Cascade Bicycle Club, which claims that systemic racism can't be fixed without tackling it within bicycling. I'm sorry. Where's the racism in bicycling? You want to say perhaps there's discrimination because cars have 4 wheels and bicycles only have 2. Okay, I get that. But the racism in bicycling? What, because it's mostly white privileged suburban people that are on those bikes who think they're all sponsored by Nike and whatever other shirts they bought at REI but aren't actually sponsored by them? Where is the discrimination in bicycling? Oh, are you talking about the price point? Because the bicycles you guys spend more money on than cars are unaffordable to normal people? Or the e-bikes, where you're not even getting a workout because you're riding your electric moped, right? Where's the discrimination? Seriously, where's the discrimination? Where is the racism in bicycling? Because it's mostly white people? Where's the discrimination? I'm very curious. The group also states on its website, if you are white, don't expect black or brown people to educate you or give you a pat on the back for your progress. Examine your internal biases and explore what being anti-racist means. I can't make this stuff up. I just can't. Their website is Looney Tunes bonkers, talking about equity and climate justice and, oh dear God. I mean, you can read this whole thing. We are committed to anti-racism, inclusion, and belonging. Where is the racism in the bicycling? I really don't get it. If you know where the racism is in cycling, please give us a call at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. So I went down the rabbit hole of this website. And in their community and values section, it's got a whole section on how can I help? There are many ways Cascade members, volunteers, partners, and supporters can advance racial equity, both within bicycling and their communities. Follow Black, Indigenous, and people of color leaders who have organized, researched, and worked on these issues for a long time. Read more about how to be a good ally. Make sure newcomers on free group rides or in other Cascade spaces feel welcome and part of the group. Believe people when they say they experienced racism while biking. Is that when I yell at a cyclist who won't get out of the middle of the road and actually go in the bike lanes they spent gajillions of dollars building that have reduced the amount of time, they have increased the amount of time it takes me to get anywhere? What? Where's the racism? I know I flipped off a few cyclists, but I don't know about being racist. Research local black-led organizations and sign on to support them, donate to them, or engage with. What does any of this have to do with cycling? This makes no sense whatsoever, but this is what they're pushing. This is where $7 million of your tax money is going to. Oh, and it's a lot more than that, by the way. We're talking about possibly tens of millions of dollars is going to these guys. You're talking about massive amounts of your money so that white people can feel better about themselves while cycling. No joke. That is what it's bonkers crazy. So we're going to get rid of all the racism in cycling. Excellent. Excellent. Fantastic. In fact, somebody sent me this where they got $16,800,000 from the Climate Commitment Act. That's right. $16 million of your taxes from the gas tax of a lot of low and middle income people who can't afford the new increases, the 50 cents a gallon increase, thanks to Jay Inslee and his entire crew, that is now paying for the anti-racist cyclists. So they are getting $16 million from the Climate Commitment Act on top of the $7 million they're getting just in general funds. Do any other organizations get money for that? Oh, and these guys, they're not a cycling group. They're a political advocacy group. That's what they are. They are pushing their own political agenda. So basically what you're doing is you're giving tons of money to these guys. It's not for bicycles. I mean, for what? About $25 million. I'm sure you could buy a bicycle for everybody in Washington. No, that's not what they're doing. Instead, they're using it so that they can push their political agenda. It's getting more of their activists to go out there and advocate for their political agenda, and you're paying for it. By the way, pretty sure that's illegal. I have to go and check about who can get government funds, who can't, but now you're funding political organizations to push your own leftist narrative? Right, because there's so much racism in bicycling. Oh, craziness. We go to the KVI studio line. Take a call from John in Lake Stevens. John, what's going on?
Yeah, I just wanted to give a counterpoint to the Cascade Bicycle Club, which I'm familiar with. But if there's a story by a gentleman out of the L.A. area that went by the name of Big Willie Robinson, and he ran an organization called the Brotherhood of International Brotherhood of Street Racers, and he would get a lease from the Port of Los Angeles with support of some of the council members to run Brotherhood Raceway on the port's property one night a week.
Okay.
Those nights, because he could get Crips and Bloods and leaders in the same car with and Big Willie was a man of color. His aide-de-camp was a man that was pale as could be. And he would get them in the same car without them killing each other to go to a sit-down meeting to talk about things that would run at Brotherhood Raceway. They were not allowed to gamble. They were not allowed to smoke. And they were encouraged to watch their mouths. And they did it. And the nights of that track run, the city police would see a significant drop in crime. That's
Fascinating.
What we need to.
Fascinating. Can you do me a favor, John? Can you do me a favor? Can you look this up and just send me a link to this? Because this sounds fascinating. I'd love to do a deeper dive into it.
And since I know you love your Mopars,
yes,
and since I happen to be now down to only 7 of them, I'm getting rid of 2 of them tonight. So.
Well, don't do that. I mean, I just had new wheels put on it thanks to my friends over at Renton Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, and Fiat. I mean, they just gave me brand new wheels on the car, man. Don't get rid of your stuff.
Oh, well, let's put it this way. When you get to retirement, you got to worry about how much money goes where, and Jay Ferguson isn't making it easy to retire.
Well, that's true. But you know what? You can make that money racing with the Crips and Bloods, don't you think?
you know what? I'm not sure I got the reaction times for it anymore.
Okay. But yeah, you should talk to my friends over at Renton Chrysler Jeep Dodge and Renton down there, because those guys, I just went there today. They gave me brand new wheels for the Charger. It's amazing. They gave me a sweet deal on the wheels. It really needed new tires there, so it's gorgeous. They did an absolutely amazing job on the thing.
Outstanding. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, good deal. All right, thanks for the call. Make sure you send me the information on that story. I really want to do a deeper dive. ARI@KVI.com, okay?
Got it. Bye.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate that, John. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Bill in Kenmore. Bill, what's up?
Hey, how you doing? This Cascade Bicycle Club is a mole in the woodwork and the political systems around here. I know that because I live in Kenmore, and if you go through Kenmore or Bothell, you can tell that the way parking lots are made, are configured, and the way the streets are lined, you can tell that the bicycle club has a lot to do with what's going on, and they're just creating dangerous situations.
Right. I mean, look, the fatality count has gone up since they installed all these bike lanes. They spent $11 million a mile on these bike lanes, and they've reduced the response times of first responders because they've clogged up traffic everywhere. And so they haven't actually accomplished anything. They just like the idea of having bike lanes, which you can only use 8 months out of the year.
Well, plus they're at war with the large cars too. You can't park anywhere in Bothell.
Yeah, well, it's not just there. I mean, they're doing it in Seattle too.
Yeah, it's what do you call them? PACs. They're political action committees, but they aren't being taxed like they are.
Exactly. I wonder if these guys are a 501c3 or if they're a 501c4. Because if they're advocating for political stuff, they have to be a 501c4. If they're a nonprofit group, then there's serious issues with them doing the political stuff that they're doing. Because that means if you're a 501c3, it's not that you can't advocate for politics. You have to give equal time to the opposing side because you're not supposed to be a political organization, which means, hey, I want to start streaming my show on their website. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, they need to be treated as equals instead of specials.
Exactly. I completely agree with you. Bill, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show? Give us a call, 206-421-5757. Got time for one more call in this segment before we go to the next one. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Jason and Lacey. Jason, what's up, man?
Hey, you wanted somebody to call in and explain how bicycling is racist. Well, they don't sell black bicyclist outfits, so they're totally against black. So there you have it.
Oh, no. Bad, Jason. Funny, though. Bad, Jason. Very, very bad. Yeah, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Lots more to discuss as the show continues when me and the Seattle Times are both mad at Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell. He must have really screwed something up. And no, it wasn't bike lanes. We'll tell you what it was when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. So yesterday, Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell gave his State of the City address, and very late in the show, we got some audio from it, and Mike noticed something really fun about this audio. Now, before we get to the audio itself, let's go to the person who posted the audio. So the person who posted it was Chris Daniels from Como News. Now,
Please, the senior reporter.
I'm sorry, the senior reporter, Chris Daniels from Como
Don't
News.
besmirch the good name of senior reporter Chris Daniels in this house.
You're right. Now, here's the thing. Chris does a fine job. I'm not criticizing his reporter skills, but he does have a little Achilles heel. If it's about the Sonics, he will clickbait the shiznit out of it. That is what he does. If he can find an angle to make it about the Sonics are coming back, maybe in parentheses in tiny little letters, right? That's what he will do without fail. In fact, we have a running joke in the bullpen around here about his clickbaity headlines about the Sonics. Now, I admire him, that he's a big fan of the Sonics, and he wants them to come back. But it's reached a new level of crazy. However, if not for the senior reporter, we would not have seen this audio. So what happens? He shares a little piece of Bruce Harrell's speech yesterday. Now, I'm going to talk over it a little bit because it's a visual daily double, but here's what happened.
Right now, at this moment, I have an announcement to make.
He reaches into the podium. He pulls out a basketball. A basketball! Oh, my God. Does that mean the Sonics are coming back?
I'm just kidding. I got
Okay, he's laughing, but he is getting booed. He is getting heckled.
Audible jeers.
Yeah, let's go back. I'm just going to rewind that clip just a little bit right here. Here we go. Cheers for the ball.
I'm just kidding. I got
Boo. Now, here's the thing. He made his entire first campaign about, I'm going to make the city safe and I'm going to bring back the Sonics. While he was on the Seattle City Council, it was, I like being council president, but I'm going to get you the Sonics. That's what this guy's been all about. So if you pull out a basketball, you better be ready right there to make good on that promise that the Sonics are coming back. But that's not what he did. Instead, it was all for a joke. Now, he actually, during an interview earlier today, he said one of his staffers came up with that bit because he's getting slammed by the Seattle Times. He's getting slammed by us. Mike was taking screenshots of it and posting it over on Twitter because it was infuriating. It was mean. It was evil. But I'll show you something else. This shows he's a dum-dum. I have said many times before, dude took too many shots to the head as a football player for UW. But you're blaming this on a staffer? No. You make an error like that, you get booed that hard, you take responsibility. I made a bad joke. I'm sorry, I thought it would be funny. I didn't realize that a lot of people would be upset by it. Done! Instead, you're blaming a staffer for that? Either you have bad judgment and you listen to a staffer's lame joke, who, by the way, you should fire that staffer immediately if they actually suggested this and let you do it, because that means they have no political savvy whatsoever. Because doing this shows, number one, you're messing with your own constituents. They should never believe you again, and you haven't delivered on the promise which you made years ago to bring back the Sonics heading into an election year, you moron! So, this little piece shows how out of touch you are. So forget the basketball for a second. Oh, the city's fine. I think everything's going fantastic. Why should we believe you, you lying turd? Why should we believe you at all on anything? People are going to say, Ari, you're overreacting to a lame joke. No, not at all. Because it shows how out of touch he is. And it ain't just Ari Hoffman saying this. The Seattle Times ripped him a new one for this. If Ari Hoffman and the Seattle Times are agreeing on something, you're in deep doo-doo, my friend. Really. Because do we ever agree with the Daily Fish rapper on this show?
No.
Exactly. So the fact that you thought this was a good idea, you are so out of touch, it's unbelievable. Oh, things are going just great around here, right? Right? Hey, Como News, are things going great around here?
It's become almost a nightly occurrence for residents living near Aurora Avenue, the site of pimp turf wars and gun battles, with prostitutes regularly walking the area.
Gunfire, somebody jumped my fence, running from other pimps, running from prostitutes, hid in my backyard while we huddled in our house scared. 4 days later, more gunfire. We rolled to the floor.
Prosecutors from Pierce and King counties, along with a Seattle police detective, all asked state lawmakers for a law to help combat the sex trade and related crimes happening on the street. And Seattle police say the state's perceived lax policies are creating an environment where people almost believe prostitution is legal in Washington state.
Our prostitution track, in particular on Aurora, has become the second most prolific track in the United States. I'm constantly pulling children off of those tracks on a daily basis. The last one of 14 years of age that was brought 2 days prior to me getting her from Texas.
Earlier this month, Seattle police arrested 9 men in an undercover prostitution sting. But by law, those men could only be charged with misdemeanors. House Bill 1265 would double the mandatory penalties for those caught patronizing prostitutes, elevating the crime from a misdemeanor up to a Class C felony, which is punishable by up to a $10,000 fine.
The goal of this bill is to protect survivors of trafficking. It's by going after Johns. This doesn't do anything to further penalize survivors. This goes after the Johns who are driving the demand.
Reporting in Seattle, Leanne Wynn, Como News.
Did you hear anything about Seattle addressing the massive prostitution problem and the child trafficking problem and the gunshot problem and the pimps? No! The Washington legislature has to get involved because the Seattle City Council are the ones who said, no, sex workers have rights too. Let's make prostitution everywhere. So, Bruce Harrell, you say everything's going great in the city. This all shows how out of touch you actually are. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from John in Lakewood. John, what's up, man?
Yeah. Hey, Ari. Listen, I really appreciate all the Doge folks out there, and I really appreciate all this good information that's coming to light. But I'm just wondering how are we supposed to deploy it now, because we don't have our own Elon Musk in Olympia.
Oh, great question. So hang on a second. This is a great question, John, and I got about a minute to answer it. So here I go.
Thank you.
So here's number one. Elon Musk does not have the power to cut anything. Elon Musk and Doge do not have the power to cut anything. All they can do is expose it, and then, hey, Marco Rubio, we found this in the State Department. Hey, Donald Trump, we found this in this department. Hey, Pete Hegseth, we found this in the Defense Department. They're the ones who actually make the cut. So all those people out there in the streets yelling and screaming, they're yelling and screaming about something Elon Musk isn't doing. He's not making the cuts. He's exposing it. So what do you do with this? You have to melt the phone lines of all the people that we catch with their hands in the cookie jar, because a lot of the things we're exposing, a lot of people in the legislature are on the boards, or were on the boards, or are supporters of a lot of these organizations. So one, you have to expose them. Two, you have to melt their phone lines and being like, how can you give money to these organizations? Three, what you got to do is message the media tip lines, because they will not report on these stories unless they think there's a demand for it, and make it easy for them. Give it to them on a silver platter, and then they might actually cover it. And four, make sure you're sharing the stuff online as much as possible and talking to your friends about it so they see it as well. All we can do is expose it. We have to lean on these legislatures and these politicians to actually do something about it.
Is there any organized effort by Republicans in Olympia to maybe,
Wait, just stop the question right there. Stop the question right there. Is there any organized effort by Republicans in Olympia? Because that's a much bigger question that we should get into sometime there, John. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, Seattle Times and I agreed for about half a second, but not for much longer, because they had a complete meltdown over an ICE video. We'll tell you why when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. So yesterday, there's a video that was put out by ERO Seattle. Those are the guys who remove the illegal immigrants from our area. It's showing a deportation flight from Boeing Field, and it looks like it's right out of Con Air. Okay, you know at the beginning of Con Air when they're loading up the jailbird for flight, and they're showing a guy walking with the shackles, getting ready, even though everybody's already in shackles. What do you need more shackles for? Whatever. It's Michael Bay, Jerry Bruckheimer, and crew at their very best, so that's perfectly fine with me. But what you got going on here is it's a video that just shows them deporting these guys and loading them on a plane. And as soon as I saw this video, I said, oh, the left is going to go bonkers because they're putting criminals in handcuffs. How dare you? Well, did you guys not see Con Air? Do you not know how that ends? If you let the bad guys out of the handcuffs, they could take over the airplane and crash in Las Vegas and take out the giant guitar of the Hard Rock Cafe and Casino. Wait, is the Hard Rock even still there? No, I think it's long gone, right? Along with most Hard Rock cafes, right, Baby Yoda? Gone? Yes, pretty sure it is.
Yeah. You asked too many questions for me. You're like, it's like a yes, no. It's like, are they gone? Yes. Along with the others, no.
So
yeah, the Hard Rock in Seattle closed. COVID done killed that.
COVID killed that one. What about the one in Vegas?
As far as I know, I think the Hard Rock Cafe is still there.
Yeah.
I think the Hard Rock Hotel is
gone. Okay, like the Star Trek attraction.
Yeah, which is fine because they were like, they are not next to each other.
Oh, they're far, far away.
I'll tell a story a different time when 18-year-old Big Mike, who was not big at that time, decided that he was on a family vacation. And while Mommy and Daddy were off gambling, I wanted to go get a Hard Rock t-shirt. So I get into a cab.
Yes.
I'm 18 years old. I get into a cab and I like, take me to the Hard Rock. He takes me to the Hard Rock Hotel. And I'm like, okay, where is the cafe? Because I want a t-shirt from the cafe. That's on the other side of town. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I will buy a t-shirt from the Hard Rock Hotel.
Because otherwise the cab ride would cost more than the t-shirt at that point. Yeah.
And it probably did already.
Exactly.
But even so.
So the Seattle Times sees this video of the Con Air wannabe from ICE. Okay. And they freak out, absolutely lose their minds. Here's what they wrote on Twitter. Ready? The president's billionaire advisor, Elon Musk, reposted the clip shot in Seattle with the comment, haha, wow. Is that news? Is that news? Here's the headline of the actual article. White House's gleeful video shows chain deportees at Boeing Field. Yeah. Well, first of all, the White House didn't make this video. ERO Seattle made the video. Or they reposted the thing, whatever the case may be. But you know who wrote this article? Mike, help me out here. I don't know who Dominic Gates was, so I had to look up who Dominic Gates was. He's not somebody who usually hits my radar from the Seattle Times. He's their aerospace reporter. So wait a second, because it involves an airplane or because it involves Elon Musk, you're writing about illegal immigrants?
It happened on a runway.
There we go. You guys must be short on talent over there. This is like when they sent their business reporter to watch the October 7th footage. Well, I see that this person's head is being chopped off in front of a convenience store. Well, that means people aren't going to go to the convenience store anymore. I mean, they still haven't
bad
read an
for
article.
Business.
Real bad for business if somebody gets decapitated by Hamas in front of your business. Oh, the Seattle Times. I want to throw this stapler at something right now, but I'm surrounded by glass. That's how mad I am right now. Anywho, so the Seattle Times is just so desperate to blame Elon Musk. Are you mad about the criminals on the airplanes? Okay, well, are these guys who just, snuck into the country illegally, or is there a little bit more to it? So I reached out. I knew this was going to happen, by the way. I reached out beforehand. As soon as I saw the video, I emailed ICE, asked for a comment. Ari, removal flight transport detained aliens to various ICE-managed detention facilities and staging areas to complete their lawfully ordered removal. Oh, they're going to Gitmo. Yeah, they're going to Camp Gitmo. Criminal aliens aboard these flights can have both state and federal convictions. And in this video, those convictions range from murder to domestic violence. Wow, you know what? I feel really bad for the murderers and the domestic violence assault types. Oh my God, it's Danny Trejo's on the plate. We literally have everybody from the movie. We've got Cyrus the Virus. We've got the Johnny 23. Johnny 23, that was his name, right? Where's Carlin Green? Where's he? The little psycho serial killer who's in the mask, and we literally got everybody on here. All we need is our friend with the long hair. That's right. We need him hitching a ride home. That's all we need to take care of the psychos at Gitmo. Unbelievable. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from our friend Transit Joe. Transit Joe, what's up, man?
What's up's a lot of stuff. I don't know how much time you got, but I got a couple things to share with you. You can pick which one. We can talk about the road usage charge that I think should go to a vote of the people, or we can talk about how, Ari, I'm not very smart. I've got a bit of blindness in the left eye, which is quite fitting for this discussion. I don't see how Donald Trump's made America great again, because this guy just said that Vladimir Zelensky is a bad guy and a dictator.
Hang on a second. You got to separate the thing. First of all, don't sell yourself short. I know you're a very smart guy, especially with the airplanes, because we've had discussions about those, and you've brought me some great stories before. So don't sell yourself short. But let me ask you a question. Didn't Zelensky just suspend elections in Ukraine?
He did in 2022, in February 24th, 2022. You know what happened that day? Russia invaded.
I get it, but he just did it. He just did it again, Joe. So somebody who suspends elections twice, what do you normally call a person like that?
Having a severe emergency, and that's what's going on here. And I think it's time for Europe to send in peacekeepers and eliminate the state of emergency.
So then, why is any of this Donald Trump's? Why is any of this Donald Trump's fault?
Because I don't appreciate comments by my president and my commander-in-chief who, yes, I didn't vote for the guy, but he's still my president because we're still Americans here. Statements bashing Ukraine. I mean, Ukraine is fighting an evil empire.
But hang on a second. Joe, let's be clear. Let's be clear about something for a second here. You had Zelensky who said just a couple weeks ago that 50% of the funds that were allocated to Ukraine never got there. How come he didn't say anything until a couple weeks ago? If my country was fighting for a war of survival, and the money that I was so dependent on to stop the evil empire of Russia, 50% of it had not arrived. Why didn't you say that a year ago? Why didn't you say that 2 years ago? Why didn't you say that 3 years ago? Why didn't he say that at any point?
Okay, I'd like to try to respond. A couple of things. Number one, the aid to Ukraine, a large amount of that is giving Ukraine U.S. military hand-me-downs while we spend money upgrading our military. And the other part is I think Zelensky wants to renegotiate the deal with
No. But hang on. He said 50% had not gone to him, whatever he was supposed to get, whether that's surplus or whether that's anything else. He said he didn't get it. So why didn't he say anything till now? Why'd he shut down the elections? And here's the question you're really going to hate the most, Joe. Then I got to run, okay? What's the end game for Ukraine? What's the end game? And so far, anybody
Russia out of Ukraine.
Yeah, guess what? It ain't happening right now. And you know what? The only way that's going to happen is if the U.S. puts boots on the ground or if Europe puts boots on the ground. So should either of us do that?
I think Europe should go in.
Okay, so then why are you mad at Donald Trump? Donald Trump is the one who's telling Europe, go in. Europe, do what you need to do because we're tired of paying for this.
I don't want Trump to call Zelensky a dictator and parrot Russian propaganda.
Aren't you a fan of, didn't you like Joe Biden who called Donald Trump a whole lot worse than that?
Yes, I love Joe Biden. I think Joe Biden.
So I just want to make sure I got this right, Joe. It's okay to call people you don't like names, but not okay to call people you do like names.
Yeah. Well, not that way. But no,
all right. We'll stop it there because I got to run to break, buddy. But don't sell yourself short in the future, okay? I will not stand for you insulting my friend Transit Joe, all right, buddy? You have a good one. Appreciate you being part of the show as always. You want to be part of the show, give us a call at 206-421-5757. When we come back, Sheryl Crow is the latest celebrity to come down on Elon Musk's Teslas. And I got some thoughts on what she said you'll find entertaining. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. So I've never been a Sheryl Crow fan. I can maybe name one or two songs of hers. But over the weekend, she shared a video to Instagram showing her Tesla being towed away, where she said she's getting rid of her Tesla and giving the money to NPR. Okay, that's her prerogative. That's her decision. But when she was interviewed about why she's doing this, she wrote in the caption of why she's doing this, "My parents always said, you are who you hang out with. There comes a time when you have to decide who you are willing to align with. So long, Tesla." Is it the Knight Rider car? Is it talking to you? Is it your friend? I mean, I know I talk to my car sometimes. Woo, woo, right? Michael. I know I talk to my car sometimes, but I mean, my car doesn't talk
I don't think that's
back.
such a good idea, Michael.
Yeah, exactly. Kid, come pick me up. I tried. It doesn't do that, even though I wish it would. But if we're talking about who Sheryl Crow hangs out with, hey, Sheryl, who do you hang out with?
My friend, the communist, holds meetings in his RV.
Okay, hang on a second. My friend, the communist, holds meetings in his RV. What RV is she singing about? I had to go look up the video to be sure about this. The video shows her sitting in a Volkswagen bus. So that doesn't say who you hang out with. The People's Bus? Yes, by Adolf Hitler in your top-selling music video? So I guess that says a lot about who you hang out with, right? I mean, aside from your friend, the communist, right? I mean, I'm not a fan of Sheryl Crow's music, but I knew once that line came on, it was time for me to change the channel.
My friend, the communist.
Yeah, see, I couldn't name any of the other words to that song except for, I want to soak up the sun. Right, that's it. But I knew that when I heard My Friend the Communist, it was time not to listen to that song anymore. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Got about a minute for our friend Bennett. Bennett, what's going on?
Hi, you seem fired up about the ICE stuff, so we'll make the 60 seconds quick. But,
okay.
I mean, I hear all this talk about, it's illegal, it's illegal. We don't need any other reason. They're here illegally. And I just wanted to ask you, I assume you're not in favor of maximal enforcement of the federal pot laws, right? You're not calling and literally narking on your friends, turning them in for smoking pot.
Well, last time I checked, it's legal here in Washington, so I don't want to go down the road of legal versus not legal, state versus federal. But regarding the ICE thing, they're going after guys who have convictions. So do you think that the people who are murderers and stuff should not be called in?
Well, I mean, it's okay. So it's two different questions. The one is that Trump and most of his supporters have always made no secret of the fact we're going after everybody if you're here illegally. And what I'm saying is, if you're not in favor of narking on your friends for the pot laws, and I assume that you're not in favor of maximal enforcement, and it is still federally illegal. You're not in favor of maximal enforcement of that.
Well, hang on a second, Bennett. First of all, we're talking about the dangerous criminals for a second here, and I wouldn't compare murderers to the guys who are smoking pot or eating edibles. You got 10 seconds, then I got to run.
Okay, well, I'm saying that Trump has always said he wants to go after everybody, and I'm saying you can't provide a good reason for that. If you it's illegal, if you take that off the table because you're not knocking on your pot smoking friends. I've never heard a good reason why somebody living here, contributing, providing for their family, and he said that's on the table too.
Well, what I'm saying is right now we're getting rid of the murderers and the domestic violent people, but I appreciate the perspective, Bennett. When we come back, lots more to discuss, including the latest insanity out of the Washington State Legislature. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Could Donald Trump be about to fix the ban on gas-powered cars in Washington? But before we get to any of that, there's some insanity going on in the Washington state legislature where now there's a bill which the Democrats are working on passing, which has been called the Initiative Killer. Joining us now on the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, the lone reporter in the Washington state legislature because no other media outlets are actually covering what's going on over there, Carleen Johnson from the Center Square. How you doing today?
Well, you flatter me so. Thank you, my friend.
Oh, always. We love having you.
That's a heavy lift, though. It is a heavy lift. But sometimes in those media avails when there's a bunch of softball questions and then I, get to ask a question that seems rather like common sense to your listeners, it does make me feel like a fish out of water down there.
And they get mad at you, I'm sure, about it for asking a real question. Like, I thought everybody was just supposed to flatter me.
Well, I've had some eye rolls. I've had some mouth quivers. I've had some side eyes. Some other, it's fun though. That's why we keep doing what we're doing. Because if somebody doesn't keep the pressure on, like you guys do at KVI, who's gonna? Because the insanity in Washington seems to be this weird blue bubble that like they're not acknowledging what's happening in the rest of the country. And like you mentioned, what the Trump administration may do to the state of Washington if we don't kind of fall in line a little bit.
Exactly. So tell us about Senate Bill 5382, which has been called the Initiative Killer.
Yeah, and this bill yesterday passed out of the Senate Government, Trouble Relations, and Elections Committee. And gummy worms and cheese puffs committee. I only say that because it's like sometimes they lump these committees together where there's seemingly no congruency as to what they're considering. But at any rate, Senate Bill 5382, which is sponsored by Javier Valdez, a Democrat from Seattle, he says that at this point, what needs to happen in Washington State with the initiative process is that we must require signature gatherers who circulate these initiative and referendum petitions and stand outside Safeway and Fred Meyer and ask you to sign a declaration attesting to the validity of the voter who is signed. Now, what that means, all right, the scary part of that and the very intentional intimidation factor, as far as I'm concerned about that, is to say, okay, you, signature gatherer, whether you're a volunteer and you're a concerned community member, or you are a paid signature gatherer, maybe hired by Let's Go Washington, let's say, if a person whose signature you gathered on that petition outside Safeway maybe put down a different address than is on file with the Secretary of State, or potentially signed when they are not necessarily a registered voter, up till now, the Secretary of State just tosses out that signer, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this bill, 5382, Senate Bill 5382, says you, the petition gatherer, you are on the hook. If it turns out that person whose signature you garnered on that petition should not have signed or did not attest to the appropriate address on file with SOS, you're on the hook. Not only punishable by a fine, but up to a year in jail.
That's insane. That's absolutely insane. See, my big concern about this thing up until this point was, well, let's take what Let's Go Washington did. So if you wanted an initiative page, they would mail it to you and you would sign it and send it back. But then they were probably thinking, oh no, what if people forgot to sign the bottom or thought, hey, I'm not the person gathering signatures, that's the person at the office. But what you're saying is they're much more nefarious intent, which is to scare people off by threatening them with jail time because they don't know who's walking up up to them in a Fred Meyer parking lot and putting down their information. And for all they know, some Antifa lunatic just having fun at their expense could come over, write some fake information, and now they're on the hook legally for it.
No, you're right. And what I failed to hear a response from supporters of this bill, I failed to hear a response to questions asked many times by the minority party. Show me the evidence for the necessity of this legislation. We have the Constitution, Article 1, Section 2 spells out the right of initiative for the people in the state of Washington, right? I Joe Schmo, could say, I've got a problem with this bill passed by whoever. I'm going to, file with the Secretary of State. I'm going to, whether it's by myself or with an organization like Let's Go Washington or somebody else, Tim Iman's former group, go out and gather signatures. We have that right as a people. And certainly as a minority party in the state of Washington, it is something that has very, very important, I know, to your listeners, because we're in, nearly the super minority at this point. But, but they've failed to I just want to finish this sentence, but they've failed to present a case, the folks who support this, as to why this is necessary. The Secretary of State is very capable of throwing out duplicative signatures, of tossing out someone who's not a registered voter, of calling up the voter and saying, okay, you've got two different addresses. We have this one on file. You now say you live here. That's what the process is, and that's why they turn in more than enough signatures, and they can toss out the ones that weren't valid. We have that process in place at this point.
It's absolutely insane. And the Democrats said, Shasti Conrad said herself, she's the head of the Democrats in Washington. She said if they get a supermajority, they want to clean up the Constitution, which means they want to go after the initiative process. They're so predictable. We knew they were going to do this. We knew they were going to go after the initiative process because of how successful it was last time. And now they're trying to dismantle the initiatives that they themselves signed on to pass. It's absolutely transparent what they're doing. And they, of course, slap an emergency provision on every bill that they pass so that way it can't go to referendum. Carlene, this is just nefarious at this point, isn't it?
It is, and you're right. Exhibit A for, why they don't like this process were the three initiatives. They were, as you mentioned, the six that were presented to them during the 2024 session. The three they were, I'll use the word forced to sign because there was such overwhelming support, the police pursuit, the income tax and the parental bill of rights. But now Exhibit A for that, I say, is their attempts now to come back through 5181 and undo the parental bill of rights. And they, my guess is they knew full well there was such overwhelming support for that. They had to pass it through. They had every intention, I believe, of coming back this session and mostly gutting that. Thankfully, a few hundred people stood out in that frigid rain on Saturday to say, no, we own our kids. You don't own our kids, state of Washington. So we'll see what happens with that. And, the good news is that since this is a constitutional amendment that would be required to get this through, assuming it passes, and I expect it will, Ari, it would then require 2/3 of, both the House and Senate and then voters to ultimately sign off on this. And I think the power of the people, the initiative process, is not something that is just, held closely important by, conservatives, Republicans in Washington, but folks on the other side as well who need to be able to hold government accountable. So I don't think it's going to go anywhere, but they're not giving up. This is the beginning of a big fight that might be a few years out yet.
Now, if you want to do your part to shut this down, here's what you do. You call the legislative hotline at 1-800-562-6000. That's 1-800-562-6000 and say no to Senate Bill 5382. That's Senate Bill 5382. Now, if you can't remember that, just say no to redoing the initiative process. Just say no to that. It's 1-800-562-6000. Remember to be polite and respectful for the people answering the phones. That's their job. They are not the legislatures who are passing the cruddy bills. Be nice to the people on the phone. Carlene Johnson from the Center Square, thank you so much for joining us today. Really do appreciate it.
Nice to chat with you, Ari.
Always a pleasure having you on the show. Keep up the great work. I mean, this stuff is insane that they're doing in Olympia. It is clear that they are completely unhinged on the Democrat side of the aisle, where they're just saying, well, we got a supermajority. Let's go after everybody. Let's not forget, they went after Bob Ferguson. They didn't like that for 2 seconds in a speech, he was being bipartisan, and then they banned his staff from the building. Well, you can come in, but not your staff. We're going to show you we mean business. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from TJ in Covington. TJ, what's up?
Well, I just wanted to comment on what you were just talking about, that you don't have to prove you're a registered voter to actually vote. But on the other hand, now they're saying these signature gatherers are responsible to make sure that the signature person is a registered voter.
Exactly. Exactly. Isn't that entertaining? And now they're trying to make it so that you get automatically registered to vote if you get a driver's license. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I thought that driver licenses were just so that people who are here illegally, who want to work really, really hard just to pay their bills and be contributing members of society, so that way they'd be able to work. Well, then I thought you said they weren't going to be able to vote, and now it looks like they are, don't you think?
Yeah, but now they're holding the signature gatherer responsible to prove whether or not all these signatures are registered voters.
Right. It's amazing to me that you need an ID so that you can drive a car. You need an ID so that you can buy pot. You need an ID so you can buy alcohol. You need an ID to do a lot of things, but apparently not to vote in this state. TJ, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call, 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. In other insane news out of the Washington State Legislature, the volunteers of Washington Doge found some more fun in the state's open checkbook. So the open checkbook, this is where they're actually pretty good about transparency most of the time here in Washington. It's only a matter of time until they go, wait a minute, Ari Hoffman and his merry band have discovered this thing. We need to shut it down right away. Do you know that your tax dollars, $171,228 went to Politico? That's right. Just like in Washington, D.C., your local officials are spending your tax money on a left-leaning media outlet. Now, what exactly are they buying here? So it says goods and services. It's in that category, but it's for the Department of Ecology, the Attorney General's office, the Transportation Department, and the Governor's office. Now, for sake of argument, let's say that the press secretary needs the subscriptions to all the outlets to do their job. I don't like it, but hey, I get it. But then why are there 2 subscriptions for the governor's office? Why are there 7 subscriptions for the Department of Transportation? Why are there hundreds or dozens or tons of subscriptions for the Department of Ecology? Why are there tons of subscriptions for the Attorney General's office? You guys don't share logins or anything like that? Why are you dropping $171,000 on subscriptions to a left-leaning outlet? And here's something else. You think Politico is ever going to ask the real questions if they're constantly being paid by the Democrats? Of course not. Don't forget, in Washington, D.C., they were giving them millions of dollars was being spent on Politico subscriptions. And how many other states is this happening? But your tax money, your hard-earned tax money, is being spent on subscriptions to a left-leaning media outlet, which is keeping them in business. If they didn't have these subscriptions, they wouldn't have a business. Do you like that your tax dollars are being spent on that? Well, Donald Trump clearly didn't. According to the New York Post, the Trump administration has ordered the State Department to terminate all non-essential news subscriptions to outlets such as the New York Times, AP, Reuters, and Bloomberg. By the way, I think they should terminate them to every media outlet. I think that at most the press secretary should get those so they can do their job of saying, well, we gotta change the narrative here or whatever the case may be. I get that. But you should be subscribed to any of these guys. Why are our tax dollars paying for any of this? It makes no sense at all. This is first reported by the Washington Post, which comes amid a broader effort to slash government expenditures. So now they're saying to U.S. embassies and consulates across Europe to cancel subscriptions. Why are the embassies paying for this nonsense? There's what? Just so they feel closer to home? You know what? There's other websites that are free, guys. You don't need to be paying for subscriptions. Also, don't forget about archive.ph, the internet database where you can pull all this stuff. Meanwhile, speaking of the lunatics here in Washington, Bob Ferguson's office is now suspending auto deletion of public records after a $225,000 settlement. According to the Seattle Times, Governor Bob Ferguson is suspending a policy that for years allowed for the automatic deletion of instant messages without oversight at state agencies, following a $225,000 settlement signed in January against the Department of Children, Youth, and Families for destroying public records. Wait a minute. Wasn't Bob Ferguson involved in all that mess? I seem to recall him having something to do with not turning over records. This marks the first known settlement against a Washington state agency for the destruction of potentially thousands of public records under the policy, which allowed Microsoft Teams messages to be automatically deleted after 7 days. So wait a minute. That's in blatant contradiction to the Public Records Act, which says you can't delete anything. You have to preserve anything. Our friend Glenn Morgan is actually going to be joining us on the show tomorrow because some of the stuff they're probably about to be deleting is really, really bad and shows the crazy stuff they've been up to. I believe this is the least transparent administration that we've had, at least since I've been on air. Governor Jay Inslee's office, at least they would get back to me. Bob Ferguson's office, anytime I did a public disclosure request, redacted, 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 redacted. And nowadays, when I ask for certain documents, they say there are no responsive records. You guys have only been in office for a month. What are you hiding from us already that we didn't know about? And here's something else. The settlement happened a long, long time ago. Why take you this long to enact it? He said he was going to be completely transparent. And it seems like he's anything but. So now they have this big settlement. Now they're going to say, oh, we're not going to delete these records anymore. So let me make sure I got this right. You got busted for deleting the records. And weren't you the attorney general during all this? Didn't you know these records were being deleted? Weren't you the one dealing with the case? So why didn't you fix it? Why did it take a court ruling and a settlement to make you fix it? Absolutely insane stuff. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, my friends, could we be fixing the ban on gas-powered cars? Donald Trump may be taking care of it. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. So I got to say, I was thrilled when I saw this news. Let me tell you what it's all about. Lee Zeldin, who's now in charge of the EPA, is going head-to-head with California over their ban on gas-powered vehicles. Now, we know dumb states like Washington follow California's lead on this stupidity. According to the New York Sun, California's attempt to ban gas-powered vehicles could be over for the foreseeable future, thanks to President Trump's newly appointed EPA administrator, Lee Zeldin. I'm thrilled about this because I went to pick up my Charger today from my friends over at Renton, Jeep, Ram, Dodge, Chrysler, and Fiat, and I got it with brand new tires. They did a whole job on it. I mean, it looks like a brand new car. They really did a great job. If you have service, even if it's not a Dodge or a Jeep or a Ram or anything else, head on down there and have them do it for you. I also got a steal of a deal on the tires, my friends. So, yeah, you can save more money than going to Costco. So, anywho, I went down there today, picked up my gas-powered car, and thought to myself, my God, what happens if these bans actually go through? But thankfully, it's not going to now because Lee Zeldin is taking on California. Does that mean that Washington's going to back off from banning gas-powered cars? Remains to be seen. But I hope the Trump administration takes that on as well. The Biden administration originally approved a waiver for new emission standards in the Golden State that requires 100% of vehicles sold in the state to be electric by 2035. Trump blocked California from seeking such waivers in 2019. However, the Biden administration gave the state that authority again, so you can't do it without the feds. I can't believe, me as a conservative, I'm asking for federal intervention. My God, the world is backwards. Zeldin's approach could mean that this time is different. He announced on Friday he has submitted the EPA's waiver to Congress, which under the Congressional Review Act has the authority to approve or disapprove the rules. Quote, the Biden administration failed to send rules on California's waivers to Congress, preventing members of Congress from declining on extremely consequential actions that have massive impacts and costs across the entire United States. The Trump EPA is transparently correcting this wrong and rightly following the rule of law. By the way, he's 100% right. So Biden didn't want Congress voting on this thing. So instead, he just said, well, as long as I'm president, we're going to be okay with this. Trump's doing it the right way and saying, let Congress decide what to do with these kind of things. They're the ones who make the laws. The executive enforces the laws. That's the way our system is set up. The decision to send the waiver to Congress for lawmakers to consider opens the door for it to be rejected permanently under the Congressional Review Act. Lawmakers will have 60 days to decide whether to approve the rule or to pass a resolution of disapproval. If a resolution of disapproval is passed and signed by the president within the 60-day deadline, the rule shall not take effect or continue. However, it differs from Mr. Trump's 2019 attempt to kill the waiver in that if a resolution of disapproval is passed, which can be done with just a simple majority, it would prevent a future rule with substantially the same form from being enacted unless the Congress passes a new law, according to Congressional Research Services. This is very important. This could kill it for good, which is why Joe Biden didn't want to roll the dice on this. Now, I want to give you an example of somebody who might be affected by something like this. Let's say you live in Washington State, for example, and it's 2035, and your car, your gas-powered car, is stolen, and you're a low-income family, and insurance is only going to cover what your 12, 15-year-old car is worth. So, what, maybe $5,000 if you're lucky? More likely $3,000? And now you can't find a used clunker anywhere. You can only find EVs. Can only find EVs which are more expensive. Now a used EV, what's the problem you're going to have down the road? Those batteries need to be replaced at $10,000 a pop. So who is this going to affect? The rich or the poor? And we know who that's going to be. It's going to be the low-income people. But on top of that, let's say you have a business. Let's say you're a small mom-and-pop landscaping company, and your truck is just shot. It's got 400,000 miles on it. It's all banged up for landscaping or whatever the business is, and now you need a new truck. Now you have to drop $80,000 to $100,000 on a new truck because the only things they have available are EVs. Forget the Cybertruck for a second. Even the Silverados, even any of those high-end trucks are going to cost a ton of money. So, my friends, think about it that way. Think about the fact that you're not going to be able to afford to buy one of these things if they ban all the gas-powered cars. So the question is, are they also going to make this happen in every state that followed California's stupidity? Yeah, we got to think about this. Now, here locally, Future 42 had this post. Senate Bill 5091 here in Washington would decouple Washington from California's unelected Emissions Control Board that has put a de facto ban on new semi-trucks and RVs in our state. Now, we discussed this a few weeks ago, actually, where there's this ban where you're not allowed to sell any kind of vehicle that's producing too much carbon monoxide. So now all of a sudden they're saying, yeah, you can't sell these vehicles anymore, and that includes semi-trucks and RVs. You're going to kill an entire industry. That's what they did around here. So they won't get rid of the RVs that are polluting our roadways and our waterways for the homeless, but they will get rid of people who want to have an RV to, go camping and stuff. Also, semi-trucks, that means think of how many people you're going to be putting out of work down at the ports because they can't buy new trucks anymore. They're going to have to go out of state to buy their trucks because last time I checked, Tesla doesn't yet have a production model ready to go of the electric giant full-size semi-trucks. I know they were talking about the self-driving ones, but you're going to affect, once again, the immigrant community. A ton of the truckers in our area are Somalians. So now you have this ban on semi-trucks and you have this ban on RVs in our state. Now, if you want to support Senate Bill 5091 to get away from California's unelected Emissions Control Board, give a call to the Washington Legislative Hotline at 1-800-562-6000. That's 1-800-562-6000. And say yes to Senate Bill 5091. Now, also, I can't believe I'm asking for federal intervention. But can we have the Trump administration say to the people here in Washington, yeah, we're not going to approve your ban on gas-powered cars either. It's absolutely insane. Meanwhile, other news out of the left coast. So Mayor Karen Bass, she's been in hot water ever since the wildfires broke out in Los Angeles. Don't forget, she wasn't even in town. She was in Ghana. So now she is claiming she wasn't aware of the wildfire warnings. That doesn't make it sound better for you. That makes it sound like you're a dum-dum. In her first sit-down interview following the devastating wildfires that wreaked havoc across the Los Angeles area in January, LA Mayor Karen Bass said she had not been aware of the dangerous fire conditions that were forecast for the city when she departed on her trip to Ghana. She was asked about her thought process behind going to Ghana by Fox News, noting that we know there were warnings about the weather before you went, and you still went. She said the trip was set to be a very, very short trip over a weekend and 2 business days. That's not a short trip. That's 5 days. She says we need to look at everything about the preparation and all that for the fires because I think when we evaluate that, we will find that although there were warnings that I frankly wasn't aware of, although there were warnings, I think our preparation, it wasn't what it typically is, meaning that before there's a major weather event, for example, last week when we knew we were going to get into rains, you saw us come together and talk about, get the sandbags and bring the K-rails out. No, the reason you had your act together last week is because you got lambasted for not having your act together for the fires. On top of that, I'm not even sure that paragraph is English. That's what you literally said. No. How could you not be aware of the weather forecast when they were being screaming from everywhere? First of all, what do you do before you go on vacation? You always check the weather of the place you're going so you know how to pack. And you know how you get to the weather app on your phone? By clicking the app in the corner that has the weather for where you are. Plus, your phone gets buzzed with all those warnings anytime an extreme weather event is going to happen. Plus, you are a mayor, which means you have TVs going on in City Hall all the time. Plus, you have a whole staff working for you. You think people aren't going, hey, Madam Mayor, we got this huge storm on the way and we don't have water in the fire hydrants or anything. Either your staff sucks or you're a dum-dum who can't take any responsibility for terrible, terrible operations of the city. When we come back, my friends, Julia Barrett from the Conservative Ladies of America will be joining us to break down more awful legislation that's coming your way out of our friends in Olympia. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570, KVI. What a week to miss last week with all the insanity going on in the Washington state legislature. But it's okay, my friends, if you missed some of it too, because there is a whole truckload of new insanity coming to us from the Democratic-controlled body. Joining us now on the KVI studio line from Conservative Ladies of America, Julie Barrett, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks again for having me, Ari. It's great to be back. It's great for you to be back, too. I was with Mike last week.
Oh, yeah. Mike said he had a great time talking to you. Him and Zach said you gave them all the perspective that you normally give us here on the show. So we don't need to go back to the stuff that's happening then. Tell us about the latest insanity that's happening right now.
Well, never a dull moment in Olympia. The Democrats are very busy. There are, with it becoming closer to cutoff, which is like midway through the session and bills have to clear through their chamber of origin. At this point in time, we're going to start seeing the fiscal committees meeting on Saturdays. And so the House Appropriations Committee just scheduled a hearing for Saturday, and these hearings go all day. They hear dozens of bills. It goes from like 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And there are 3 election bills that we've been watching all session that cleared out of the House State Government and Elections Committee and are now going to be heard on Saturday in the House Appropriations Committee. So this is kind of the last opportunity before these clear out of the House altogether for citizens to oppose these bills.
So what do these bills do specifically? I mean, our elections here already suck. We already have concerns about them being manipulated or them being fraudulent or illegal immigrants voting. We already have seen that happen from time to time, and they choose not to prosecute them. So how much worse can these things make everything?
Actually, much worse. If that's possible, they do make it much worse. So I'm sure you've talked before on your show about ranked choice voting. There was a proposition, I guess, in Idaho that was defeated in November for ranked choice voting. Alaska has it. It's a bad deal. The Washington Democrats, this is not their first go at it, but the ranked choice voting bill, which is House Bill 1448, is up for a hearing. This is just like, it's a very complicated system which would totally confuse voters. There's a huge administrative burden. There would be more funding, coming from the taxpayers to fund all of this. It just would make Washington elections from already really, really bad to even worse.
So ranked choice voting, if I'm not mistaken, Alaska implemented it and now wants to get rid of it. In fact, including some of the people who actually wanted to implement it because it's been such a disaster for them.
Right. And even Secretary of State Steve Hobbs is against this bill.
Fascinating. So if you want to say no to this bill, Julie, can you give me that number one more time?
House Bill 1448.
1448. So if you want to say no to ranked choice voting, you can call the legislative hotline. That's 1-800-562-6000. That's 1-800-562-6000. And say no to ranked choice voting. Otherwise, my friends, it's a really complicated version of this. But basically what it means is, well, who's your runner-up? Who's your third person? And eventually they keep counting and counting and counting until they get the winner they want, which is why states are moving away from this that have already enacted it. What other bad things are on the menu this week, Julie?
You've also got House Bill 1710, which creates what they're calling covered jurisdictions. And these covered jurisdictions are based on past voting where these jurisdictions would have discriminations or disparities in their elections. So what it's going to do is it's going to have increased oversight from the Attorney General's office. It's going to create a lot of additional bureaucratic hurdles for your local elections, and it gives special treatment to special groups of citizens.
Well, isn't that special? I mean, this stuff doesn't surprise me anymore. It's just, well, since we're in control of the system, how much can we abuse the system? I'm almost afraid to ask what the next bill is, Julie.
The last elections bill I have for Saturday is House Bill 1750, and this would amend Washington's Voting Rights Act of 2018. Basically, what it seems to do is allows local jurisdictions to kind of do redistricting, and it's based on, again, those discrimination and disparities. So I think, as you know, with the redistricting of the legislative districts recently, that they gerrymandered that, and this would allow them to do that on a much bigger scale and at the local level.
Right. So now you've got a thing where they're trying to mess with the entire system. And we now know, here's something else that's fascinating to me. Julie, I don't know if you saw this, but an Amazon driver was arrested the other day by ICE. Apparently he was distributing drugs. He was in drug manufacturing. And when he was arrested, he was wearing the Amazon gear. Now, after reaching out to Amazon, they do a lot of third-party hires for their drivers. So this guy probably didn't work for Amazon. But at the same time, he's got a driver's license. And I know that when you register for a driver's license here in Washington, you're also registered to vote. Have you guys done any investigating into that?
Well, not necessarily investigating into that, but in paying attention to the bills. There is a bill, I think it's Senate Bill 5077, that would create automatic voter registration. So as you just said, when you go get a driver's license, automatic voter registration, this is going to expand on that. So if someone signs up for like Apple Care or food stamps or something like that, the system will automatically sign them up to vote. But there is an opt-out version, but the person, it's probably, I imagine it's probably like a little checkbox on a form that if you miss it, then you're opted in. So you would have to be paying attention.
Sure. And how many people are going to be honest and say, well, they sent me this ballot, so I might as well use it anyway. Right. I mean, and by the way, no nefarious intent, by the way. Some of these people may go, well, I guess it's okay here. I mean, look, if I move to Israel and all of a sudden I get a ballot in the mail, they don't do mail-in balloting. They do everything in person, and they count it faster than we do here in Washington, and they have more people living in the state. But if all of a sudden I got a ballot, I said, well, I guess it's okay then. They know I came here. They know how I got here. It must be okay. Absolutely insane. All right, switching gears now, Julie. It's not just voting they're messing with. What else are they doing?
Well, they've got, you've covered this extensively, House Bill 1125, which is the Judicial Discretion Act, which allows judges to modify sentences. Mm-hmm. I know you've covered that a lot. I know Brandy Cruz has covered that a lot, and a lot of other people. This is a really bad bill for public safety, and it would really allow activist judges to shorten sentences of persons who maybe shouldn't have their sentence shortened. So that also has a hearing, will be heard on Saturday in the House Appropriations Committee.
And my friends, you know why they do these things on Saturday? Because they know you have lives. They know you have other things going on, and you're not paying attention. So you're not going to pay attention to the fact of, they want to start redoing sentencing. And I will remind everybody that Governor Jay Inslee, now former Governor Jay Inslee, wanted to release the Green River Killer and many other people just like him, and was using COVID as the excuse to do so until the media exposed what he was up to. Julie Barrett from Conservative Ladies of America, give us your website so people can sign up for your email list and make sure they get all the updates from you guys.
Yes, they can go to conservativeladiesofwa.com, and then if they're outside of Washington, conservativeladiesofamerica.com. But I'm assuming that most of your listeners are in Washington, so conservativeladiesofwa.com.
Julie Barrett, thank you so much for covering all this stuff and making it so easy to understand, because we know that they're trying to cloak it so that the average person doesn't get what's going on. And thank you so much for joining us today. Really do appreciate it.
Yes, they are. Thanks again for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Always love having you. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and movie passes. Yet another reason, always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI. Left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and, of course, subscribe to us on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Jeff in Seattle. Jeff, what's happening?
Hey, I've just been thrilled with all the Doge work, and I was curious. I saw that there's some kind of procurement for $400 million of something called an armored cyber truck. I think Elon will look into that.
Well, here was the funny thing about the armored cyber trucks.
Sure there's no conflict of interest there, right?
Oh, I'm sure. But actually, that was exposed. Hang on, Jeff. Jeff, hang on a second. Jeff, hang on. So that was exposed. Actually, it was Joe Biden who put in the orders for them, and a lot of the media got that wrong. They said, wait a minute. Trump ordered all these cyber trucks, and it must be a conflict of interest. But those were ordered during the Biden administration. So I have many questions about this whole thing. And also, if you're buying the cyber trucks, what are you buying them for? All right, let's take King County for a second. King County spent, I believe, millions of dollars on buying Teslas. What are they buying the Teslas for? What, because of their pledge to go all electric? It's insane. I don't care who owns the company. Why the hell are we paying for all this? Did we lose Jeff? Oh, was Jeff one of those people trying to make a point thinking he got me, and then he got off the phone when I pointed out it was Joe Biden who ordered all the Cybertrucks and not? Oh, can't take the heat. Stay out of the kitchen, my friends. Anywho, got this crazy story from the Whitby News-Times. The former chairperson of the Island County Republican Party is now facing felony charge in connection with his refusal to wear a mask in the county elections office last fall. Prosecutors charged 57-year-old Tim Hazelow, a North Whitby resident, in Island County Superior Court February 6th with unauthorized access to a voting center, disorderly conduct, and criminal trespass. See, this is what they do, my friends. They're not charging him for not wearing a mask because you can't charge him for that. There's no rule about that. So instead they're saying it's unauthorized access to a voting center. And how dare you object? So we'll slap you with disorderly conduct. And now we're going to criminally trespass you. By the way, there were plenty of other people not wearing their masks also in that room, but he's the one who's the Republican. So we're going to get mad at him. The unauthorized access charge is a felony. Disorderly conduct is a misdemeanor. Criminal trespass is a first-degree gross misdemeanor. Under the standard sentencing range, he could face up to a year in jail if convicted because he wanted to observe the elections and not wear a mask. Hazelow was originally charged in district court with a single count of disorderly conduct. Allen County prosecutor Greg Banks said the district court case was dismissed when the Superior Court case was filed. Banks said he escalated the charges to include a felony count after negotiations with Hazelow and his attorney did not result in an agreement. You know what? Because you guys shouldn't be charging the guy anyway. This is malicious prosecution. Hazelow previously accused Banks of pursuing the case for political reasons. By the way, he's right. Banks previously ran as a Democrat, but now filed as having no party preference. Banks denies any political-related bias and has repeatedly stressed the importance of ensuring the integrity of elections. The guy didn't try to stop the elections. The guy was trying to observe the elections, and you guys were trying to force him to wear a mask for no reason whatsoever. So now Banks tells the Whitby News-Times it is not uncommon for prosecutors in the state to charge people suspected of committing first-time, less serious felonies with misdemeanors in district court in an attempt to resolve a case quickly. Oh, you mean get them to plead so you don't hit them with more charges? You mean threaten them? You guys are going after this poor guy because you're trying to make an example out of him. It's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Hazelow and Tracy Abul, the former vice chair of the Allen County Republican Party, were both accused of breaking the law by allegedly disturbing the process of counting ballots during the general election. No, they didn't want to wear their masks during this. So this is absolutely bonkers crazy that they're going forward with this nonsense, but it shows that the power of the government in the wrong hands can target anybody for malicious prosecution. And by the way, we're still doing the COVID nonsense. I saw this story out of Ohio. Ken Long, a 54-year-old veteran from Eaton, has been denied a heart transplant at Christ Hospital due to his refusal to receive the COVID-19 vaccine. Are we still doing this? Wait a second. Isn't one of the side effects of the COVID-19 vaccine heart problems? You guys should be discouraging people from getting the COVID vaccine. Long, who was diagnosed with congestive heart failure nearly a year ago, believes the decision is based on his vaccination status. He said, when I decide something, I mean it. If it takes dying, that's what it is. They don't know enough about it, plus it's already done a lot of damage. People have said blood clots. There are no cardiac issues, and our personal religious rights. He's 100% right. This is absolutely crazy. Are we back to this again? Remember, we did story after story after story of people being denied transplants during COVID, during the height of COVID, because they wouldn't get the jab. By the way, they're now thinking about revoking its authorization because there's been so many problems, and now they're finally willing to admit it. Wait, hang on a second. Now they're willing to admit it because Trump's in office and they can blame him for it now? Is this what's going on? By the way, I often wonder what would have happened if Trump had won a second consecutive term. Would all the Democrats have been the ones refusing the vaccine and all the conservatives going, you got to take the shot. You got to take it. I think everybody can agree that the rollout of the vaccine was bungled. It should have been, look, if you're at risk and you want to take the shot, go ahead and take the shot. We're not going to force you, but the Democrats love forcing you to do things. So they came down on you with the mandates. And you know, the conspiracy theorists who all said it was going to cause problems, yeah, turns out they were the spoiler alerts, my friends. When we come back, Mayor of Seattle really steps in it with a bad joke during the State of the City address. We'll give you all the latest details when we come back. You'll listen to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. But before we get to any of that, my friends, Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell yesterday really stepped in it during a really terrible joke during his State of the City address. So what happens is, I'm going to have to narrate parts of this for you. In the middle of his speech, he pulls out a basketball. Here's what happened.
Right now, at this moment, I have an announcement to make.
Reaches in, pulls out the basketball. Oh my God, are the Sonics coming back?
I'm just kidding. I got
He is laughing while he is being booed, jeered, and heckled. This took me back to in December when they had the Christmas tree lighting. And you remember he comes out and all of a sudden they say, and now Mayor Bruce out, boo. And then he starts going, woo, woo, trying to be louder than everybody else out there who's going, boo, boo. And then he throws out some red meat, as we'll say, even though it's more blue meat, of all, we're going to protect abortion, woo, abortion, whatever else, LGBTQ, woo. This is a guy who cannot read a room. Maybe he's been hit in the head too many times playing football, but dangling the Sonics in front of everybody for 3 years. In fact, longer than that. He's been doing this since he was on the Seattle City Council. But he ran for office basically of, yeah, crime sucks around here, but I'll get you back the Sonics. That was his campaign strategy last time. Well, now he's up for re-election again. And this joke did not end well for him. It didn't. Seattle Times is ripping him for it. We ripped him for it. Mike's ripping him for it on social media. He's getting criticized by everybody for this joke because he can't read a room. He just can't. You think it's funny during the State of the City address to play a joke on everybody, which illustrates your failure to bring the Sonics back to Seattle? All you just did was remind everybody of the fact that you couldn't keep one of your campaign promises because you've been promising the Sonics are coming back for God knows how long now. Now, senior reporter for Como News, Chris Daniels, anytime there's a headline possible about the Seattle Sonics, he will do it. He will write about it. Now, we wouldn't have known about this video if not for him because nobody watches the State of the City address, and he pulled the video, put it on social media with a clickbaity type thing, and then we saw it.
Well, and I was going to say, it's telling that this is the only component of the State of the City address that we're talking about.
Yes, because the rest of the State of the City address was, well, yeah, crime sucks, but it's getting better, and everybody going, really? You think it's getting better? Yeah, I don't think it's getting better at all, but this is what all the senior reporter had to report on because there was nothing to the speech, as Mike points out. So now everybody's mad about it. Everybody's mad about this joke across the board. Now, Mike pointed out something fun, that Mayor Greg Nichols was in the crowd. Now, for those of you who are new to Seattle, you may not know that Mayor Greg Nichols is the one who is one of the people who is blamed for moving the Sonics or allowing the Sonics to leave. Look, people, I'm going to say something very unpopular right now. I went to the Sonics games when I first moved here before they left, and that stadium was always empty. You guys let them pull the major league on you. If you had gone to the games, they wouldn't have been able to move the team because it would have been too profitable. I know the 90s were fun, but you have to stick with your team through thick and thin. You disagree with me? You give me a call, 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. But Greg Nichols was in the crowd when he made this joke. So was he trying to take a pot shot at Greg Nichols? Instead, all it did was show how incompetent Bruce Harrell was. By the way, he did a few radio interviews this morning where he's blaming his staff. The buck stops with you. You're blaming your staff for the bad joke. You didn't have to tell the joke. You could have said, this isn't going to end well. People are raw about this. I mean, when you bring up the Sonics, people are really, really mad about it. I don't even care about basketball at this point. But you know what? At this point, I almost don't want them to come back because then Bruce Harrell's going to take a victory lap on it. Because then Chris Daniels, who every headline the guy does is something clickbaity about the Sonics, is going to do a victory lap on it. Jenny Durkin is going to take a victory lap on it because she takes a victory lap on getting us the Kraken and getting us Climate Pledge Arena. At this point, I almost don't want the Sonics to come back, and I like more sports teams in a town, so I clearly don't mean the rain. No, I want more sports teams here. I really do, because I think it makes you a better city. But at the same time, not reading the room, not reading the environment shows how out of touch Bruce Harrell is. Plus, you want to talk about the Sonics? You say crime is better around here? As I was driving to work this morning, I most mornings drive past Sean Kemp's Pot Shop, which is near the office. I couldn't help but notice they've done some redecorating over there today. Oh, wait, that wasn't done by them. You mean somebody did the crime where they take a car and ram it into the store to break into it? By the way, you would have thought, God forbid, that a president was assassinated at the location because there was so much activity. The media is covering this like it's the first time it happened. Did you know that somebody stole a car and crashed it? They used it as a battering ram to break into a pot shop. Mike, we almost never cover these stories anymore because it happens every 5 minutes.
Well, that is true, but it also kind of cracks me up. The intensity of the coverage has everything to do with geographic proximity. Our friends from Como 4 and our friends from Cairo 7 literally walked to the scene.
Yes.
Yes. Like, I saw a dude with like a camera rig over his shoulder as I was going down Denny this morning. I'm like, oh, hey, he's looking for news. And I pull up to like the Wingstop. I look up, I'm like, oh, no.
So let's look at this for a second. You have three major news outlets within close proximity. You got Cairo 7, you've got our friends over at Como, and you've got Northwest News Radio, who are all within walking distance to this thing. I said to Mike this morning, I go, hey, you want to go on a sightseeing trip? Let's go look at the store that got bashed in by the car. And Mike's like, there's still a lot of activity going on over there. I don't know if we want to go down there.
Friend.
Yeah. But you want to talk about the Sonics and crime? Well, put your hands together, my friends, because you got both of them in this one story the morning after the State of the City address. It shows how out of touch he is. Here's something else, by the way. I have the same commute as Bruce Harrell does. I have the exact same commute. He lives near me. I drive past all the things he sees every single day. There's maybe 3 or 4 routes you take to get downtown. Depending on traffic, you're only going to take 1 or 2 of them. I see the same things he does. Or is he too busy being driven around by the Seattle Police Department, so he's busy looking at his phone or on his tablet or whatever else, and he's not paying attention to the same squalor I see? Como News is more than happy to tell us about what's actually happening here in Seattle.
It's become almost a nightly occurrence for residents living near Aurora Avenue, the site of pimp turf wars and gun battles, with prostitutes regularly walking the area.
Gunfire, somebody jumped my fence, running from other pimps, running from prostitutes, hid in my backyard while we huddled in our house scared. 4 days later, more gunfire. We rolled to the floor.
Prosecutors from Pierce and King counties, along with a Seattle police detective, all asked state lawmakers for a law to help combat the sex trade and related crimes happening on the street. And Seattle police say the state's perceived lax policies are creating an environment where people almost believe prostitution is legal in Washington state.
Our prostitution track, in particular on Aurora, has become the second most prolific track in the United States. I'm constantly pulling children off of those tracks on a daily basis. The last one of 14 years of age that was brought 2 days prior to me getting her from Texas.
Earlier this month, Seattle police arrested 9 men in an undercover prostitution sting. But by law, those men could only be charged with misdemeanors. House Bill 1265 would double the mandatory penalties for those caught patronizing prostitutes, elevating the crime from a misdemeanor up to a Class C felony, which is punishable by up to a $10,000 fine.
The goal of this bill is to protect survivors of trafficking. It's by going after Johns. This doesn't do anything to further penalize survivors. This goes after the Johns who are driving the demand.
Reporting in Seattle, Leanne Wynn, Como News.
There is so much to unpack in that one story. We're the second worst prostitution in the U.S., the second worst on Aurora Avenue. Mike, I seem to remember when we first got this radio gig here on this show, we did a story about the Seattle City Council saying, well, you know, sex work is work, and if we let them pander wherever they want, then they'll be safer. And you and I both went, What sense does that make? We said, you're going to have pimp battles, you're going to bring drugs to the area, you're going to bring crime to the area, you're going to bring turf wars to the area. In another episode of Ari and Mike Are Always Right, what do you think happened? That's exactly what happened in that area. And wait, hang on a second. Was Bruce Harrell on the city council or not when they passed that stupidity? I don't think he was. I actually don't think he was. But at the same time, he's mayor. And you know what? He could speak out against these things right now. Well, we gotta give 110%. And you ever notice that anytime he's giving an interview, he sounds like he's still on UW football? Well, you know, we're gonna take him on and we're gonna take him down and we're gonna give 110%. And you know, we're gonna give our best effort. And bring back the Sonics.
Yeah, we got a plan and then we're gonna execute. And then after I share the plan, it's like, let's go.
Yeah.
And then we're just gonna go.
Exactly.
And then we're just gonna go. Where?
Exactly right. It's mind-boggling that people keep electing this guy. And you know the worst part is, Mike? He's probably going to get elected again. Do you know why? Because what's going to happen is some lefty lunatic is going to come out of nowhere, and then somebody from the right who sucks is going to appear. And then what's going to happen is, if anything, Bruce Harrell is going to go into the general election wounded because the person on the right who sucks is going to have drained a few votes away from him. So the left is going to be running around going, we can win, we can win, we can win. And you know what? They might, because he sucks that bad. I mean, here's the thing. Mike's giving me that crazy look.
I was going to say, wait a damn minute.
Yeah.
Do you got a crystal ball over there? Because, wait a sec. That's what happened already.
Exactly.
That's what happened last time.
Exactly.
And it's going to happen again. It's like we're living Battlestar Galactica here, the reboot.
Oh.
It's, everything that has happened is going to happen again.
Exactly.
And it will just keep happening.
Exactly. But he's more vulnerable. I think he's more vulnerable this time because here's the thing. Last time, Mike, we got angry phone calls that I wouldn't endorse him. We got angry texts. We got angry emails. How come Ari won't endorse Bruce Harrell? He's the only chance we got. I said, you know what? At least with the socialist, I know what's going to happen. With him, it's you got to give 110% and we're going to make things better and life is going to be better. The man is delusional. He likes the idea of being mayor. He doesn't actually like being mayor. He doesn't actually like doing the thing we elected him for.
And now well documented, likes messing with people.
Yes.
Likes to mess around with his constituents.
Yes.
Even in that clip that we played earlier, he's like, I got you. I got you.
Yeah, during the State of the City address, I got you. Oh, wait, here, let's do another one here. I'm going to clean up the homeless problem. No, I'm not. I got you. Wait, hang on. I got another one. I'm going to recruit more police officers. No, I got you. I got you. Just kidding. I'm going to clean up Aurora Avenue. No, it's not going to happen. Just not. How many other things can we do this with? I'm going to make Seattle more affordable. He's a Democrat. They don't do that. No. That's just crazy. You're talking crazy, Ari. You're talking insane. Give me a break. And you know what? Some news outlets around here are going to be like, oh, Mr. Mayor, we have to fawn over you so you still answer our press requests. Ha! He has not answered a press request from day one from us around here. Still hasn't. Been 3 years, not one, even after he ran into me at a Starbucks and promised that he would come on right after the election. You know how I knew he was lying? His lips were moving. But also, I knew he was lying because at that interaction, when he says, I'll come on after the election, that's always I'm never going to talk to you again. That's support me through the election. So you know what we're going to do, Mike? Can you do me a favor? Can you check for something? Can you see if his campaign website is up and running? And if it is up and running, would you mind sending me a link to it so I can get in touch with the press person over there and ask a little question about that? Because I want to have some fun at their expense. By the way, if he wants to come on the show, he'll come on the show. But I'm going to ask him the hard questions, which apparently nobody else in the media is going to ask him around here. You know, like how Belltown residents have finally had enough. Complaints have been building for months, according to Como News, about the drugs and other dangers that make people feel unsafe in Seattle's Belltown neighborhood. Now a police commander is offering to sit down with residents to come up with solutions. Gee, I got an idea. How about we just enforce the law? Hey, wait, isn't Sean Kemp's pot shop in Belltown? Do we technically count as Belltown, or are we Lower Queen Anne, Upper Queen Anne, or whatever? You know what? It's all the same mess. It doesn't matter because the mess is all over Seattle. Does it matter if you're on Aurora or Queen Anne or wherever else?
Yeah, it's all in the same zip code.
Exactly. So,
but for clarification, Lower Queen Anne for us. Belltown's like one block over.
Yeah, right, exactly. One block over.
Yeah,
it's where sushi places are and night spots.
There you go.
Yeah,
exactly.
Here you got offices, residential, and you got KVI. Over there you got sushi and night spots.
Yeah,
that's what you got around
it's a
here.
designation with no difference.
Yeah, exactly. So give me a break on all that mess. But he hasn't done anything. Some people go, well, the homeless problem is better and public safety is better. Could it have gotten any worse? And also, the King County Regional Homeless Authority is basically Seattle's homeless exporting agency. James Bond worked for Universal Exports. Here, we've got the homeless people being shipped out by the Seattle Export Agency, the King County Regional Homeless Agency Association, or whatever they called. Because all it does is it takes the homeless people from here and ships them all over the rest of King County, or out of King County if they can even manage that one. Bruce Harrell is a failed mayor, an absolutely failed mayor. And now the problem is we're going to have a choice between him and a socialist. That's what it's going to come down to. And a lot of people are going to say he's the lesser of two evils. And I'm going to tell you something. He's not. He's not, because he'll lie to you. He'll tell you, I'm going to make things better and I believe in public safety, and he doesn't. He's going to say whatever it takes to get elected.
We literally said this last time.
Mm-hmm.
Literally
said
this last election.
I feel like a broken record around here because I know I have said this before. And you know what, Mike? I'm going to bet you something. When it comes to the general election, hang on, stamp the date and time. 5:19 p.m. on February 19th. We're going to get angry phone calls. We're going to get angry texts. We're going to get angry emails. Or he's running against Nikita Oliver, or he's running against Kashama Sawant, or he's running against some socialist to be named later. How come you aren't backing him? I'll tell you what. You disagree with me? Give me your angry phone calls now. 206-421-5757 or text me at 206-421-5757. When we come back, Seattle Police Officers Guild is having some issues of their own with our dear beloved mayor. Mike Solon joins us next. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, if you want to see this beautiful face and this receding hairline, head on over to Rumble, Facebook, and X. So that way you can see the live stream of the show from the studio every single day. Of course, subscribe to us on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from George in Kenmore. George, what's going on?
Hey, Ari, heard you talking about the electric trucks. I know it was Fox News, Fox Business today announced this one, begins with an N. They went up, belly up. So they're ceasing business. They only have 47 million left, and they got, that's like for the last payroll,
Yeah, and also Kamala Harris's electric bus company is now out of business. The one that she was touting as being so awesome, so wonderful, they're now out of business too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for her, they were going to make little bus.
Little bus. Exactly. Yeah, that didn't work out so well, did it now? George, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Well, our friends over at the Seattle Police Officers Guild are also having some issues with our dear beloved leader of our city here. Joining us now on the KVI studio line to discuss what's going on, Mike Solon, president of the Seattle Police Officers Guild. Mike, what's happening?
Hey, Ari, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. But I hear you're not doing so good. What's happening with the union?
Well, I'll tell you right now, we're, first time in a very long time we've publicly gone against what the Mayor Bruce Harrell has done specifically to us. And I think it now, based upon what appears to be support of a catastrophic House bill, it's called House Bill 1816. What it does, it basically makes crisis response employees for any city that's above 200,000 people to make it mandatory. The biggest component, which was initially specific to just cut out SPOG in terms of giving us the inability, removing our ability to bargain this, now they've captured all unions don't have this ability to bargain against any type of crisis responder employee that would get hired to, work in the public safety arena.
Wait a second. I'm confused. I thought Democrats are the ones that support unions and such. So what is this doing?
Well, clearly what it is, man. I mean, the energy behind this, they're just being bullies to force basically people that are supposed to intervene in crisis response for people in crisis, if you will, and give them alternatives of shelter and whatnot and blankets, etc. But they're subverting the state law, which gives us the authority to bargain these issues because it clearly is a working condition issue that used to be a police officer's work. And they're forcing now non-armed people to do the job, certain aspects of a police job, without the ability for unions to bargain the decision.
Well, also, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but they said they want to replace all the cops with social workers during the 2020 riots, and then one of the social workers got stabbed to death literally while they were having that vote. They've tried this before, and it's failed spectacularly.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's very dangerous, right? Street-level crime and whatnot, and just dealing with people that are just mentally unstable, it can be a dangerous thing. That's why cops have all the training that we're afforded, de-escalation training. We lead it. We've had crisis responders, Ari, in the city of Seattle since 2008. We were the model for others to come and learn from us. I mean, we developed the program. And then we're state mandated to get, on a yearly basis, crisis intervention training. So we are the subject matter experts. But to your point earlier, I mean, we support some version of alternative form of policing. It's currently part of our contract. So it baffles me as to why they're now going around us at the bargaining table to bully their way of making this concept CARES permanent in perpetuity. So it tells me it's, number one, bad faith bargaining, but this isn't just specific to police. You can hate the police all you want. It's fine. The problem is now what they're doing in Olympia politically is they're pulling in other unions that represent other workers. They're directly impacted by this forcing of a crisis responder unit in jurisdictions over 200,000. Think of the arrogance of that and the complete hypocrisy how they completely subvert labor law and cutting out unions. And ultimately, Ari, and I'll end on this with that question, the ultimate goal of Sean Scott, who's a police abolitionist, who's the author of this horrific bill, it's House Bill 1816, is to nullify police unions, make us that we don't exist, we don't have a voice. We are the only voice right now in the public safety sphere that can throw shade. Aside from your large audience, and you do a great job, we're the only entity that can call balls and strikes here.
And here's
And
something
so
else. I mean, didn't they kick you guys out of their labor union and they claim to be all big on being pro-labor? Sean Scott claims to be pro-worker. He's a socialist, right?
Well, he led the charge on a lot of that to remove our ability to bargain for our people.
Mhm.
And that just goes to show you that he's going to completely continue that activism at the state capitol. So I urge everybody to go to at SPOG 1952 on X and look at the video we populated today, which highlights that one of our assistant chiefs, one of the most unconscionable things I've ever seen in my career, put in public comment in uniform last week that he supported this bill. To me, that's a stunning development in how they've basically embedded themselves, the activist class, to go to command at a chief level and influence them to do their bidding. It's stunning to me. And then obviously Sean Scott is going to continue to be a police abolitionist and do everything he can to subvert our authority.
So if you want to help out the Seattle Police Department, what you got to do is you got to call the legislative hotline and say no to House Bill 1816. You say no to House Bill 1816. You give them a call at 1-800-562-6000. That's 1-800-562-6000 and say no to House Bill 1816. In the last few minutes, we have with Mike Solon, president of the Seattle Police Officers Guild. Mike, I haven't heard from the chief on any of this. Has he spoken out about it yet?
Oh, I'm not sure about that. It's somebody in his command structure that probably has to answer some questions as to why they decided it was a good idea to go in uniform and support a bill that is against collective bargaining. To me, it's stunning. But it's not just policing, for us, SPOG, is why we want you to connect with House Bill 1816 and say no to it. This impacts all unions now because they amended the bill to capture now firefighters and their unions. And anybody else in this conversation relative to employment in the public safety capacity, cities over 200,000 will be impacted by this, I think, bullying tactic by Sean Scott, I think fully endorsed by the mayor to do his bidding. So to me, it's a stunning development in the state of Washington to circumvent collective bargaining rights. And it's unconscionable to me. And I hope there's accountability here, and we're doing the best we can, because I'm not proud, Ari, of publicly going against the mayor. Like, I've got to get deals done, work behind the scenes to cause, to solve problems. But to me, this was the last straw. And it just goes to show you just the complete disrespect of law and order and the policing conversation. And we fully support alternative forms of policing, obviously, because we don't have the staffing to meet the 911 needs of our community. I mean, we've lost close to 700 people, if not over 700 people in 4 to 5 years' time since 2020, the riots. And yeah, we've had an uptick in applicants because of the great contract we negotiated, but we're currently out of contract now. It's expired. And this new development doesn't really bode well for me in terms of a recruiting tool for the city. It shows me, if I was a new recruit, that, hey, if the mayor's office is this disrespectful to the current police officers and the bargaining rights of those police officers with this, what appears to be a bill that someone that they endorsed as they ran for the legislature, who is a police abolitionist, to me is unconscionable, and really just shows that people probably want to take great pause and look at what they're getting into. I'm for one we need more cops now more than ever to protect the citizens of the city. We're desperate. Every patrol shift at every precinct is below minimum staffing levels. We need more cops. We don't need more alternative forms of policing. People are begging for enforcement, an armed response. Hold people accountable for their law breaking, the crime. It's stunning what is occurring. This is a power play. And to circumvent collective bargaining rights for public sector employees is an incredible development that not just impacts police, but it impacts all labor unions in jurisdictions over 200,000 people. Think about that. The law basically is saying that you're forbidden to bargain what they're trying to get across in this legislation. It's incredible.
Absolutely insane. And I can't believe some Democrats are supporting this, especially people like Sean Scott, who claims to be about the worker, and Bruce Harrell, who claims to be about the police officers. But I want to remind everybody of one little story before I let Mike go, is that Bruce Harrell endorsed Sean Scott. Oh, wait, did he or didn't he? Because he wouldn't admit he actually did. But then Sean Scott went out on the campaign trail and said he did. So the police abolitionist was endorsed by Bruce Harrell. I just want to remind everybody of that little scandal that the mayor's office has still not answered for. So he created this mess. So remember, call the legislative hotline, 1-800-562-6000. That's 1-800-562-6000. Say no to House Bill 1816. That's no to House Bill 1816. Mike Solon, president of Seattle Police Officers Guild. God bless you. Stay safe, my friend, and best to all of your officers.
Good, Van. All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us today. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues, including the latest insanity from Washington, D.C., losing their minds over Doge, losing their minds over ICE. They're losing their minds over everything, and it's so much fun to watch. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and movie passes. Yet another reason. Always keep your radio tuned. 570 KVI. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Chris in Bonnie Lake. Chris, what's up, man?
Hey, buddy. So, two quick comments. When you and Mike were talking about, Bruce Harrell,
yeah,
and he's going to win the election again. And I'm always commenting. I say this to my girlfriend when we're going, who's voting for these idiots? Like Newsom and this and that. And her response to me is always, or are they?
You're not entirely wrong, but here's the thing, Chris. Let's back this up for a second, okay? I'm not disagreeing with you that something fishy is going on with our voting system. I'd be a fool to say something isn't. But at the same time, I need more proof. I need more proof before saying that. And at the same time, I've met the idiots who vote for Bruce Harrell. I know the idiots who vote for Bruce Harrell because they figure, well, he's the best we're going to get. And I know tons of conservatives that voted for him last time.
Well, and it's funny because you say that because that's my response to her. I go, listen, I know things are sketchy with the voting stuff, but there's enough morons in Seattle that they're knocking each other over. And in California, they're knocking each other over to vote for these guys.
Now, I will say, but think about this. I'm going to let you finish, Chris. I'm going to let you finish. But think about this for a second, okay? In the most recent election here in Seattle, so many people said, well, this is the best we can do. This is the best option. And me, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to hold my nose and vote for Bruce Harrell. I didn't last time. And all the people who were yelling at me last time were conservatives because they said he's the best we're going to get. Continue.
Well, and, with the gentleman from the police guild, unfortunately, when you have a state that is one party, we're North Korea. They can do whatever they want. They don't care how many phone calls they get, whatnot, because they're large and they're in charge.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll disagree with that a little bit because the last cycle we did with the legislature, they actually backed down on a bunch of stuff because we melted the phone lines. We're going to see how dumb they are this time because the problem is I don't think they're up for election this year. I think they're up next year. And they're probably counting on the fact that voters have a short memory and they're thinking they're going to survive this no matter how radical they are. However,
well, that's what I think. They'll just wait and put it off until no one's actually paying attention.
Well, I'll tell you. Hang on. I'm going to tell you the saving grace we have, and I can't believe I'm about to say this. The saving grace we have is Bob Ferguson. Bob Ferguson wants to be president. He's going to run for president, and he knows he can't, being a far-left Seattle radical. And we saw during State of the Union, he tried to come across as bipartisan. So the question is, will he actually veto some of the crazier stuff? Because if his name is on it, he gets tagged with it on the national level, and the rest of the country is moving to the right. I can't believe I'm actually banking on him.
Can I vote for the flag thing, too, real quick?
Yeah.
The gal called in on this. I thought it was perfect. We just leave the nice green field, and then, like she said, a big turd.
Okay, you guys are gross, but funny. Chris, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. Kristi Noem, Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, came out with this ad against illegal immigration, and the left is going bonkers.
I'm Kristi Noem, the United States Secretary of Homeland Security. Thank you, President Donald J. Trump, for securing our border and putting America first. Let me deliver a message from President Trump to the world. If you are considering entering America illegally, don't even think about it. Let me be clear. If you come to our country and you break our laws, we will hunt you down. Criminals are not welcome in the United States. For too long, weak leadership has left our borders wide open, flooding our communities with drugs, human trafficking, and violent criminals. Well, those days are over. Under President Trump, we are defending American families and restoring their safety. If you try to enter illegally, you will be caught. You will be removed, and you will never return. Follow the law, and you'll find opportunity. If you break it, you'll find consequences. Strong borders mean a stronger America. President Trump is making America safe again.
That was awesome. I want to contrast that with the last administration.
There's limited fighting already on the northern Israeli border, and I wonder what is your message to Hezbollah and its backer, Iran? Don't come across the border. Don't escalate this war.
That's right. Yeah, he said that about the border, right? He said that about the border here, too. He said, oh, the border's closed. Didn't we hear that before? Wait. Didn't Kamala Harris say something similar about this?
And I want to emphasize that the goal of our work is to help Guatemalans find hope at home. At the same time, I want to be clear to folks in this region who are thinking about making that dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border. Do not come. Do not come.
Yeah, that really discouraged people, didn't it? Hey, by the way, you want some fun news? You want to be entertained? The CCA, the big talent agency in Hollywood, you know how they signed Joe Biden? They just signed Kamala Harris. And I'm kind of wondering what her talent is exactly. For that, we go to the archives, my friends, because this is who they just signed.
Break it down in layman's terms for people who don't understand what's going on and how can this directly affect the people of the United States.
So Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia.
We campaign with the plan. Uppercase T, uppercase P. The plan.
Do you have plans to visit the border?
Not today. But I have before, and I'm sure I will again. I said I'm going to go to the border. And when are you going to the border, Vice President? The administration has asked. I'm not finished. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making. I'm being clear with you right now.
Yes, okay.
And so if you're interested, I'll continue to be clear. There are a whole lot of people, especially people who live in rural communities, who don't, there's no Kinko's, there's no Office Max near them. It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day. We are doing it.
But should we have done it sooner?
We are doing it.
What do you see as the biggest national security challenge confronting the U.S.? What is the thing that worries you and keeps you up at night?
Frankly, one of them is our democracy.
You don't feel misused or underused?
No, I don't. When folks vote, they order what they want, and in this case, they got what they asked for. I went off script a little bit.
You think anybody's going to buy her book? You think they're going to sell the movie rights to her life? My God, you think anybody's going to go see that movie? Man, what a train wreck. Only good news, your good news giveaway, your good news headlines, your chance to win a $50 gift card to Daniel's brother, plus so much more when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Only good news to wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And before we get to our good news giveaway, I love these kind of good news stories. You know why? Because I remember when this used to be the news in Seattle, when it was only stories like this one. So, of course, when I see a baby animal at the zoo, I'm going to grab the baby animal at the zoo story, and we're going to do it. So, according to Como News, the Oregon Zoo is set to welcome visitors to meet its newest resident, Tula 2, a 2-week-old Asian elephant calf. Beginning Friday, February 21st, Tula 2 and her mother, Rosie 2, will be available for public viewing inside Forest Hall, part of the zoo's award-winning Elephant Lands habitat. Mike, you ever been to the Oregon Zoo? I've never been down there.
I have not.
So I'm wondering, maybe the wife loves the zoos. My wife loves the zoos. So I'm wondering, maybe we drive down there when she's back and go check out the baby elephant.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, it sounds good. I know she likes this kind of stuff, so maybe we'll make a day out of it. Problem is, there's no more kosher food truck in Oregon. So it'd be worth the drive to get the meat steak sandwich that they used to do, but now there's no meat steak sandwich. Okay, well, whatever. Baby elephants are cute, too. All right, I'll pack something for the road. We'll do that. Anywho, Forest Hall will be open to guests from around 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. with limited capacity and viewing times. Hours may change, and the area could close if Rose and her calf need quiet time. You mean I'm going to drive all the way to Oregon to find out I can't see the baby elephant? I just want to see it. This baby elephant looks adorable. There's a video over on Como News. You can check it out. Apparently, according to Como, since her birth on February 1st, Tula 2 has gained national attention, including appearances on NBC's Today Show, which named her a front-runner for cutest animal of 2024. By the way, I would agree. This is an adorable baby elephant. I don't know what makes this one so adorable. It just is. Elephants are funny-looking creatures. So when you see a baby funny-looking creature, they're even more adorable. Pandas, however, I don't know how they survive in the wild. I just don't. Those big, doofy bears just rolling all over each other all day. How those things aren't extinct by now is beyond me.
It's because they're so cute.
Because so the lion just goes, you just stay there. I'm not going to eat you, little panda.
Yeah, you're too dumb to eat. And, oh, look at him. He's rolling down the hill again.
It's like some of the protesters here in Seattle. I'm
Yes.
like, you're too dumb. I could just enjoy watching you be dumb in the dumbness that you're doing. I understand. Now I understand. Wait, does that make me the predator? Yes, that's what it is. Okay, now I understand. Fully on board with this now. Before I forget, your chance to win fantabulous prizes. Today, we are giving away a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. Daniel's Broiler has been a Seattle favorite since 1980. Features USDA prime steak and other specialties, including chicken and fresh seafood, as well as a selection of high-end spirits, wine, and cocktails. Daniel's Broiler is open now in Bellevue, downtown Seattle, Leschi, and South Lake Union with dine-in, takeout, and delivery. Check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout, delivery order, and more. We're also giving away a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, plus the Little Red Book of Retirement. Learn how to design your retirement to support your quality of life. For 30-plus years from Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, a local company working to help you grow deep financial roots so that future financial storms don't blow your life savings away. Visit madronafinancial.com for more information and discover how you can create a rooted wealth plan today. Last but certainly not least, we're giving away 2 run of engagement passes to Last Breath, a heart-pounding film that follows seasoned deep-sea divers as they battle raging elements to rescue their crewmate trapped hundreds of feet below the ocean's surface. See Last Breath in theaters on February 28th. All you have to do in order to win these fantabulous prizes is be caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Caller number 10 wins a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card, a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement, and the Little Red Book of Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial, and 2 run of engagement passes to The Last Breath. Phone lines are open now. Give Mike a call for your chance to win. That's going to do it for us today, but fear not, we'll be back tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and of course, more giveaways. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.